Yo, what's poppin'? It's Tommathan, and about 2 weeks ago, I made a video about a player on every team that overperformed my expectations of them going into the season. So now, I'm here to do the opposite of that. These are the players that underperformed the expectations I had of them. Starting off with the Atlanta Reign, for me, it's going to be OG. So I had a lot of thoughts about OG. I thought he was going to be that guy with the pre-existing synergy with UV. I thought this was going to be a stellar backline, and OG was going to be a very, very high-level main support. Now, he still had a decent season, but he was definitely a step below what I thought he was going to be. And I don't know, it makes me question, and not question him, because I look at him, I'm like, he's got to be better than average, but he's not going to be spectacular. I was expecting very, very good top level stuff, and we just didn't really get that. It was a little bit underwhelming. Now, there's some other people you could point out here on Atlanta. You could say, well, Kai didn't perform as well in the back half. You could say Gator didn't play at all, but I didn't have expectations for Gator. I don't know. I had higher expectations for OG for sure compared to everyone else. And instead of going right, I'm going to go down and go to Houston Outlaws. For the Houston Outlaws, for me, I'm going to go with Pelican. Now, this might come out of left field for some people because Pelican was pretty good this season. But compared to last season, it definitely was a step back. And I expected a step up from last season. 100% I expected a step up. He was... I don't know. I don't like it when you're in the sophomore season. You kind of have a sophomore slump there, kind of, because he never showed up huge when he needed to. Felt like Merritt was much more consistent, and Merritt was the big guy for them. And I thought Pelican would level up even more. I thought Pelican was going to be front and center for this team, and everything would fall in place around him. But that's not how it happened. Now you can say that, well, what would have happened if Merritt wasn't so good, or things like that. But Pelican was not even, like, I'd say Dante was more impressive than Pelican even. Like, I don't know. I feel like I expected more from Pelican. We'll see what he does next season. If he goes somewhere else and if he gets back into form. It's not like he had a bad season. He was still a very good DPS player. But I wanted him to compete with the likes of, I don't know, like Kevster level. I wanted him act like Kevster level. You know what I mean? I wanted him all the way up there, the tippy top. And we didn't quite get that. We just didn't. I don't know. He didn't have a bad season again, but he just didn't show up as much as it mattered. I think he shows up a little bit more in some of these tournament scenarios, and Houston have a deeper runs in those tournaments. Yeah, he did do well in the Reaper in the playoffs, but the Reaper, you know what I mean? That's not why he's here. And then looking at the Seoul Dynasty, it has to be Fitz for me. And the thing about Fitz is it's not so much his play, but just everyone else's play around him and like the Sojourn in general. Sojourn needs to be that big, flashy player, right? It's not enough to just sit back and get a pick every now and then. Yes, getting picks is important, and Fitz was pretty consistent, but compared to Lip, Shy, all these guys, MN3, Leave even, it just felt like they all had an X factor that Fitz just didn't have when it came to the Sojourn. I think he still did his job in, day out, but for what Seoul needed from him and for what I expected him to be able to pull his weight better. Because before you could say, oh, you know what? Fitz was actually the better DPS duo on Seoul. You could argue that. That was an argument you could have. Not this season. Prophet was simply better than Fitz. And because of that, it feels like he's taken a step back to me. But yeah, I don't know. I still think he's good, but he was kind of average. I expect better than that from Fitz. Going to New York. New York's hard because this entire team, you could say you expected more from. Everyone expected this team to not be bottom three trash garbage. You know what I mean? Like, you look at these rosters, you look at these players, and you should expect more, even though they lack the main support, even though they just had Kellen. I think every single player could fit this category for down here. I also have these guys over here. Myeongbong for sure didn't perform well, but I didn't have a lot of expectations for Myeongbong. But I had higher hopes for Kellen. Now, this one's maybe fraudulent because I wasn't like too into contenders at the time here, like Korean contenders. So my expectations of Kellen were mostly just hearsay and a few clips that I saw and things like that. But I expected him to be able to perform on the Winston at least, and he just didn't. It just didn't look good. Even whenever the meta is supposed to suit New York, supposed to look good for these guys, it didn't. And a lot of that stems, I feel like, from Kellen. When Kellen looked decent on the Junker Queen, at least average, New York were able to step up and they had their best stage. It still wasn't good. It still wasn't a winning record, but it was their best stage. And I expected more. I didn't expect too much from Gang Engine on main support. I thought Flora and Yaki did more or less how I expected, maybe a little worse. I don't know. Kellen, I did expect more from Kellen, though. Going up to the Gladiators. Now, Gladiators are hard because I feel like none of these players really underperformed individually, but as a team, they definitely underperformed. So I want to go with Funny Astro here. So hear me out on this one. For Funny Astro, I expected him to be the best Lucio in the league. He wasn't. He wasn't that in the end. And honestly, there's a lot of debate about who that is. You could say Chio, people say Vindame, Violet gets some names, things like that. Funny Astro had a weaker season than I would have liked. Now, I still think he was exceptional, especially in that first half when he was able to come in and just be a big difference maker. But whether it be because of the Summer Showdown meta, his statistics say he played good, but it didn't feel like it was fully there. Something felt off in that back half of the season for Funny Astro, and I can't fully explain it to you. I can't do any of that. Maybe I was holding him to maybe I had too high expectations for him. Who knows? But I really thought Funny Astro was going to step in, be the best damn Lucio, undisputably, and just kind of leave, or at least top 3. But he just didn't reach that. I still have high hopes for him. I still think he'll be good next season. I do expect him to be better than this next season, 100%. But maybe I'm setting myself up for failure. I'm setting him up for failure to end up on this list again. Who knows? Going up to Boston, even though he was on Washington for most of the time, it's got to be Mag. Still, it's got to be Mag. Oh, bro needed to turn something around here, but it just never happened. It just never happened. I don't know, man. The high points for Mag for me are like not that high anyway. I don't know. It felt like Washington were winning. It wasn't because Mag was going crazy. It was because they happened to sync up well. Like Decay and Assassin happened to sync up with Mag. It just constant desynchronization. He comes over to Boston. He's still desynced with his team. That first week on the Junker Queen was so bad. There would be times where the entire team's kiting back and Mag is just in there fighting. He's giving him the old 1-2, you know? And it's like, I don't know, across 2 different teams, across 2 different seasons, it's felt like there's been a disconnect with him and his team. I don't know if you call this a Washington effect. I don't know if he didn't have time to get integrated into Boston. I don't know what it was. I expect better from Mag. He was supposed to be that guy, and that hope, I still had hope that he could perform, but never happened. I don't know. For Boston, there's some other names you can say, but Mag to me, nah. Put Striker here too, even though he was on Shock. You could do that if you'd like. Going over to the Chengdu Hunters. Now this one's hard because Jimnu played better than I thought. I thought Gaga was alright. I didn't have too many expectations for Daitza, and I think the backline was more or less how I expected. So that kind of leaves Leave. And the thing about Leave is I didn't expect him to be as good as he was on the hit scan. Not like as good as he was the previous season on the hit scan. And his Sojourn was still very good. But it just felt like, you know, you come off the best season of your career. Obviously, it's going to be hard to follow up that MVP performance. But there were times he was getting diffed on Sojourn by EasyHan. And I'm not taking anything away from EasyHan. He definitely stepped up in the end. But if you're Leave, you don't really want to see that. You know what I mean? That's not what you want to see. So Leave is kind of a Mickey Mouse one here. He didn't perform that much lower than my expectations, but definitely a little bit at least to me. And that's partially because, you know, going forced on the hit scan full time is just not what you want from him. Hopefully, we'll see what happens next season on the Spark. Presumably, he'll be there. And he'll be able to play flex DPS besides Shy and be the best damn duo in all of APAC if it's even a thing. I'm fully expecting a bounce back season, but this season, a bit of a downturn. It's unfortunate. It's a bit of a downturn. For Philadelphia Fusion, it's got to be Carpe. Carpe, Carpe. Okay, the thing with Carpe, I did expect... I was kind of even with him on MN3. I didn't know who was going to get the nod ahead most of the time. I'll be honest. I was like, who knows? Could be either way. And then he comes in, and in the kickoff clash, I'm like, okay, MN3's your guy. But it wasn't a too noticeable difference. But the more and more you get playtime in the Summer Showdown, he's the worst damn Sojourn in the league. That is not what you expect from Carpe. I don't care if he's leaving the scene. I don't care about all of that. I expected better Overwatch than that from Carpe. Straight up. Straight up. I expected better Overwatch than that. There's some other names you can put here. You could put Fury, had a kind of an off season, but Fury's been on the downturn for a while, if you're being honest with yourself, and not just a Fury fan guy. And that's not reality, but like, and I know Carpe hasn't been Carpe for a bit, but this season was a real step back for him, and I'm disappointed. I'm disappointed. Paris, I'm not putting anyone here. I didn't have any expectations for any of these players. Didn't have any expectations for any of these players. You could maybe put Dridro if you like. You can argue Dridro because I had high expectations for him, but with such an awful team, he was not going to be able to perform well. Straight up, wasn't going to happen. So, I don't know. Dridro's here is kind of Mickey Mouse. I guess you can put Dridro here if you'd like. But realistically, he was not put into a place to succeed. Yeah, I guess he technically underperformed. But, like, that whole team was a mess from day one. Washington Justice, easy to put the K here, but he actually stepped up. I'm going to put Assassin. I expected better from Assassin. Yeah, I know his EMPs were kind of tragic last season, all that stuff. But outside of the Sombra, the Genji, all those things, I don't know. I expected more from him. I was like, you know what? Assassin's still pretty good. His Genji can be there if he needs to. If you put the K on the other guys, you can play some weird stuff with him. The K Assassin. I don't know. I don't know what I expected from Assassin, to be honest with you, but I expected better. I don't know. Because I didn't expect much from Opener. I didn't expect much from Krillin. They both outperformed. Decay, I guess you can say he didn't show up sometimes, but I still think he played pretty well overall. And I put Mag up at this section, so Assassin's gonna fall in place here. This one's kind of whatever to me, also kind of similar, but I expected a bit more, a bit better than average. I would say he probably was average, right? I expected a bit more than that for such a star-studded Washington roster. San Francisco Shock. This one's got to be Kilo. The hype he had coming in, the clips I saw, what I was promised, it never came true. Yeah, streaky player with extremely high peaks. Streaky player with decently high peaks. They weren't insane. He wasn't S level at any point this season. At best, he was mid-A, his peaks per game, and at worst, he was below average. Kilo, I was expecting more. I think he can give more, but it's rough because you see Herbicide Proper's taking all the attention. He should have been pretty free, right? He should have had a lot less pressure than if he was on another team without the best player in the world beside him. So it's hard to say like what situation would be better for him. Maybe not Sojourn, maybe more of a Widowmaker specialist. Sure, you can say that. I guess that's the biggest thing you could say is the meta would shift more for him to be better at Widow. But I don't know. I was disappointed in Kilo. I think a lot of fans were disappointed in Kilo. Yeah. Now, Dallas Fuel. This one has to be Gurio. Kind of similar, actually. Straight up, I don't even know what I was promised from Gurio, but my expectations of him, whatever they were not that. That was tragic gameplay. That was awful. That was downright, like, shameful gameplay, really. So like no matter what you expected from Gurio, he underperformed. Unless you expected him to be goddamn awful, which I certainly didn't. I don't know who would. This was weird. This was a bad season. And like you can say, oh, the scrim bucks, he's been good in scrims, he just gets nervous. That's part of pro play, man. You just have to overcome it. And he just didn't. And that's like a part of it. That's a part of the Owl experience as a player, I'm sure. You can't just say, oh, I'm good without pressure on me. You're going to have pressure. You're a professional player. It's just a spectacle. You know what I mean? It's like, hopefully you can work on it. Hopefully you fix it out. I'd love Gurio to have a comeback arc, a revenge tour. I would love it. I think it'd be fantastic. I don't know if we're going to get it. I don't know who would take a chance on him. He'd get signed to a league min as a third, fourth DPS slot because you can't rely on him to be your only hit scan. I don't know. We'll see. Florida Mayhem. Actually, this was going to be Surma Jed for me. You could say Exley, but I think Exley didn't play bad when he showed up, and from what he said, some interesting circumstances there. But Surma Jed, I didn't expect him to get benched for RuPaul. Straight up. Did not expect him to get benched for RuPaul, and RuPaul stepped up. To RuPaul's credit, he did step up. But Surma Jed, really good start, kind of fizzled out. The beginning is how I expect this entire season to go. And yeah, I could say, oh, the Zenyatta didn't fit the playstyles, or the playstyle didn't match up to the Owl system, things like that. And that's true. But it's also weird because he played the Lucio and stuff, and the Lucio wasn't awful. It was good, like in the Summer Showdown tournament, and on LAN, it was pretty good. Before that, pretty questionable. And I don't know. I expected more from Majed. I really did. Maybe I was hyping him up too much because who knows? Because he's Majed and he's just a goat. He's very fun to watch. His playstyle's great. Um, but to lose your job out to RuPaul, did not expect that one. Did not expect that one. Toronto Defiant. Lots of things you could put here. Muse has got to be the big one for me though, bro. Literally lost his Winston slot to Hoppa in the playoffs. Your season's on the line, and it's a Winston meta, and Muse isn't in. That speaks volumes. That speaks volumes. From the get-go, there was some stuff there. There was some Doomfist stuff there. But for the most part, Muse's season was not as advertised. I am thoroughly disappointed by Muse's gameplay. Straight up. Straight up. And the playoffs just kind of is the icing on the cake. Even before the playoffs, I would have said Muse, but the playoffs just are the icing on the cake. You can't come back from that. You can't. It's uncomebackable. 100%. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what you want to say. More to say about Muse, man. Now, obviously, he had some scuffles, not scuffles, but he had some disagreements with KDG back at the beginning, and that affected some things. But, like, I don't know. Good for him for getting KDG fired. That definitely helped, though. 100% agree with that. But wild. Vancouver Titans. Honestly, for Vancouver, I want to go with Shockwave. He only played like a stage, but like I wasn't overly impressed by him. I thought it was gonna be him and Aspire versus the World, but it was really just Aspire versus the World to me. I don't know. I don't know what I expected. He didn't get a lot of chance to be reintegrated. He didn't even get a shot because he was probably too expensive for what DPay wanted or something like that. And I'm not saying this is on him because I still highly rate Shockwave, but I don't know. I expected more, and of course he wasn't put in a place to succeed. All that stuff. The same line for a lot of these players, you know, not put into the place to succeed. Dredro, I don't know who else. Dredro, Kellen, I guess, things like that. I thought he'd be that guy. If he was bad enough that they looked at his contract and said this isn't worth it, and they pick up King, that kind of tells you that even they thought he underperformed, right? A little bit, at least. I don't know. For the Guangzhou chart, just got to be developed. I'm going back over to the dropped bin, and I'm putting develop in here. The things that he was supposed to be doing were not being done. They were not being done. Shoisei Wan was looking like a one-man army out there when that old roster was out, and I thought Develop would be there to help him. Sometimes he showed up on the Widowmaker, and he played pretty well. Outside of the Widowmaker, bro was invisible. Even when he was on the Widowmaker, kind of invisible sometimes. He's not performing well in contenders either. If you're watching him with me on stream, things like that, it's not great from Develop. It's not. It was never. And my outlook on him has soured. I thought he was going to be good. Maybe the worst hit scan in APAC at the time when he was playing. I would say. I think that's a very fair assessment of Develop. And I expected him to be not that. I expected him to at least compete in some regard. Spark, it's kind of hard because my expectations going into the season for a lot of these guys were kind of whatever. I guess I could say Irony, but I want to say Ligue. For so many years, even though he didn't get the playtime, this one's a little bit weirder because he didn't get the playtime, so I guess we can't say. But I expected him to be able to compete with Bernard still somehow. I don't know. It's just like he's been hyped up for so long that eventually be like, surely Ligue gets a spot here. But it was always Bernard, and Bernard played very well. I don't take that away from him. Maybe Ligue was good. That's why Irony's going to go here too. I'll put them both. Because Irony, his Brigitte, I did not think it was possible to be that bad at Brigitte. Straight up. That was the worst Brigitte gameplay I've ever seen in the Summer Showdown. Irony's absolute tragic gameplay shook Changoon and the Sparks management so hard that they blew up the entire backline and tossed just not one, but two stages almost. Like, they overreacted so much because how trash Irony was. The collateral damage hit Super Rich and they took Neko back, right? Like, that's how bad Irony was. I didn't anticipate that. Not at all. Like, that is unreal. Now, it did give them Teru, which helped them in the long run for the playoffs, but, like, that was rough. That was rough from Irony. For this London Spitfire, it's got to be Shaxx. I'm a big Shaxx enjoyer. I thought his Tracer would be better once he got more playtime. The Countdown Cup came around. He got some good playtime. He got absolutely not rolled. He got kind of rolled. He got kind of rolled. He had some good appearances. Like I remember one time against Atlanta, he looked decent. But from there, I remember him getting rolled by Malthel. I remember just not enough happening from Shaxx. And whenever Sparker was put down in like tournaments and stuff, and you would see a little bit of Shaxx, he didn't really perform there either. It didn't really come through. Yeah, I thought he would be a good third piece for this Sparker backbone DPS lineup, but it didn't really happen. He just wasn't. And I guess that's kind of comes with whenever you're not really a high level hit scan, but you have a really good tracer, and then you're not a flex DPS player, so that leaves you in a really awkward situation if you have Sparker on your team. It just felt like it was a mismatch. 100%. And I don't know if he's in the league next season because of this performance. And then the final two for the LA Valiant, I'm gonna be honest, I don't have anyone to put here. I didn't really have expectations. I guess I could say Dia. I expected Dia to not be benched for EasyHan, but whenever Dia did play on his hit scans, on his Ashes, on his Widowmakers, he was pretty damn good. He was impressive. So this one's a little fraudulent, similar to Ligue. I'll do it this way actually. Similar to Ligue, Dia's a little harder because the actual gameplay wasn't below my expectations, but in terms of being benched for EasyHan is below my expectations. You know what I mean? So that's why this is. Other than that, I didn't have too much for any of these guys. And then Shanghai Dragons, the easiest one, Fleta, man. You go from an absolutely top tier flex DPS level. You can play it all at an incredibly high level to whatever the hell this season was, man. The Tracer did nothing. Legit AFK. Lowest deaths per 10, lowest damage, lowest Elans. Just the Reaper was your best spot. Was your Reaper. Your Genji was not nearly up to par compared to Who Are You, Stalker, Zest, anyone you want to name from APAC. Shanghai could have a few guys here, but Fleta's definitely the biggest one for me. I could see Void falling off. I could see Fate falling off. I could not have seen Fleta falling off. It just blew my mind that happened. But yeah. So let me know your list down below. Or let me know some parts of your list. Let me know your favorite one. Who cares? Anything you want, I'm here to listen to it. I want to know what your guys' thoughts are. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Like this video, subscribe to this video, all that stuff. Have yourself a good one, and deuces.